As according to Defense Department data, the military has double the rate of autism than the civilian world.
Dr. Rokke, we know what's happening to children that are been...
It's all there. I mean, when we look at the Department of Veteran Affairs acknowledgement, again, says very, quote, birth defects in the children whose parents were exposed. So we're seeing all these toxic exposures affecting neuro, affecting all the RNA, DNA, and we're seeing all the birth defects, not only U.S. military children, but the children around the world where it's affected. That's a given. It's an absolute given. And what we have learned also is when military personnel start yelling and screaming about their children, if they yell and scream too loud, man, they're dumped so fast, make your head spin.
Anything else?
Yeah, yes, sir. I wanted to make one other point. On November 17th, George W. Bush is going to be giving a speech at the University of North Texas, and I hope a lot of people show up and protest with me there.
God bless you, sir. I appreciate your call. Boy, it's hard to take these calls, but it's important to put this out there so everybody really understands just how serious this situation is. Who's been holding the longest after Noah, guys? Joe in California, another veteran. Joe, you're on the air with Dr. Doug Rokke.
Yes. I was a combat veteran in Desert Storm, the first one. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, and this is very important. You need to ask these veterans, were they field vaccinated?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I mean, all my unit, they were field vaccinated. We were forced to shoot ourselves right through the uniform. We'd break the needle, shoot yourself through the uniform with a field vaccination. All my unit got sick. All their kids, the kids that were born afterwards, are messed up. I did not get the vaccination, and my kid is normal.
This is completely the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs and the report issued by Jim Binns is in November 2 years ago. Again, totally confirmed all the health effects on the immunizations. This is well known. The immunizations were a toxic mess, not only from the anthrax.
Now, here's another point. I used depleted uranium, and, you know, I was very careful. I was not trying to target kids or civilians, right? But now I read a report after I get back that the kids and the women are going and picking up the radioactive shrapnel and getting poisoned by it.
It's still there, totally contaminated air, water, and soil, and all the children. We get down in Fallujah, we get down in Basra, the medical reports coming out of Basra, not only for the U.S. military there during Desert Storm, but the military that are coming out of there currently, and the civilians. It's a medical disaster, and I've talked to the physicians there and actually spoke at world conferences, the United Nations, and all over Europe with the physicians out of Basra. You're right. It's a complete, total disaster. And just because you didn't target them doesn't mean it, because once it's there until it's removed. And it stays there forever, and you can't really clean it up. That's what I found out when I wrote Army Regulations and had 700-48. And that's why I told them they can't use it anymore, and that was the end of my life as far as the military was concerned.
Well said.
Yeah, I appreciate being able to have, you know, my voice heard after, you know, 20 years of coming back from Iraq and finding out, you know, I did it for oil. I did it for the big oil.
Well, you also did it for world government, and they hate our veterans because they know you're good men and women. That's why they soft kill you. But hopefully we can get this out to the young people, and they won't join so they can be basically experimented on and slow killed. Thank you so much, Joe. Bullseye in Texas, another veteran. You're on the air with Dr. Doug Rokke.
Yeah, how you doing, Alex?
Good.
Pleasure to be speaking with you. I was in northern Iraq through Turkey in Operation Provide Comfort. I was in an Apache helicopter unit. We got there about a week after the American Marines ran the Iraqis out. We moved directly into the buildings that the Marines, you know, bombed and shot up, chasing the Iraqi army out, and we lived in those buildings for 6 months.
Did anybody warn you? Did anybody warn you, sir, about how deadly that was?
No, absolutely not. We didn't hear anything about it. About 30 days after I arrived there, I developed a nice, wonderful case of diarrhea. And I've
we all got that.
I've still got that today. I still carry that today.
You'll have that for the rest of your life. I mean, what's happening, again, the Department of Veteran Affairs states very specifically in the Clinician's Guide for DU that the explosive diarrhea is one of the exact medical problems from the exposures.
I'm not surprised. They've got me at 100% disability now. I'd like to jump forward 10 years to 2001, where I got a letter in the mail from the VA. This is kind of okay. They wanted me to come in for a PTSD screening. I never showed any signs or anything, but they were screening everybody back then. It was a big George Bush thing, I think. Something about veterans on the street. Anyway, I go in there for the screening. The guy talks to me for 20 minutes and sends me home with Prozac. I take it for 2 days, and that stuff is crazy. I don't know how people take it, so I quit taking it. I went in 30 days later, 20 minutes after that second appointment. He tells me, he says, hey, and he uses my name, and he says, you have a saint complex. All saints are dead. You need to become one of the lying, cheating thieves of this world or leave this world.
What do you, who said this to you?
The head Army psychiatrist at the Temple, Texas VA hospital.
Well, there is a cult of these people, and that sounds about like how they talk. Dr. Rokke, you ever heard anything like this happening before?
Every day. One of the problems we run into with the PTSD and psychologists and psychiatrists is they want to medicate all of the problems away. They don't want to deal with the true medical problems involved with the neurotoxicity from all the complex toxic exposures, not just DU. So they figure, well, we'll dumb them on down by giving them the meds. Now, the problem we're running into, and Army Times has written about this, it's been written up a lot, we've done a lot of reports, when you start combining all these medications, you combine pain medications with the other medications for the physiological problems, and then you combine the psychotropic drugs, you're going to end up with a total nightmare. And that's what we're seeing. The Army Times editorial here a few weeks ago called for that to stop. I've been, continually yanking their chain. A lot of other people have, and they're getting the reports.
Well, the Prozac insert admits it causes suicide. So here, take this.
Right.
But the main reason they put you on the drugs is so they can say you're a mental patient to take your Second Amendment rights.
Right. Well, they found, and it's even in my records, he found that I did not have PTSD.
Caller, you still there?
Canceled all my pain meds. Then they said they were worried I was going to get addicted to them, and they canceled them. I've had none since, so don't need to worry about that.
All
and
right,
about 2 years after that, they sent me another letter for a standard hearing test. You're going to like this one.
So they're still going after you.
Yeah, so I figured, let me go stick my toe back in the water and see what we can do.
Well, listen, Bullseye, God bless you. We'll do another one of these broadcasts soon, hurrying through the veterans' calls. But we're hearing the same story over and over again. Angela in Oklahoma, you're on the air with Dr. Doug Rokke. Go ahead.
Hello, guys. My father fought in Korea, 1987. He had a nosebleed, and then he started just bleeding all over the place. After months of this, we went to the VA down there in California, and they had asked us, can we have permission to take your dad's blood? And when I walked in, because I asked for a conference with every single doctor that was involved.
Sure, what happened? What happened?
People from Mayo Clinic from all over the world, scientists came to get my dad's blood, a slide of his blood. Not only was he from Oklahoma, chalked off whole blood, which his family was exterminated, coming here from Mississippi to begin with, they told us that my father was just as lucky as winning the lotto. His chances of getting what they called at the time was erythroleukemia. He finally died of erythroleukemia. My father's case was one of the very first cases that the VA and I guess...
Yeah, there's now all these new cancers coming out, and they're becoming very common. So what's the bottom line? What do you think he was exposed to?
My dad told me he was a medic. He was pulling the soldiers out from stacks of, pulling their dog tags from, just pulling it from their neck. He was collecting them. He said bombs were going off all over. He said it was Agent Orange or Agent Green, something like that. He just told me all these bombs were going off, and they ordered him to go there when they were exploding and collect the dog tags. help anybody.
They probably did some type of Project Shad on him, which we know they've done, for decades. God bless you, Angela. Sorry about your father. Dr. Rokke, remind folks of Project Shad.
Project Shad, you can check it up, go on the internet, do a search, project, and then Shad, S-H-A-D, is deliberate use of chemical and biological and radiological materials on U.S. citizens, U.S. military. It began back in the 1950s and it continues to this day. The most recent one where I was totally involved in, I got exposed, was down at Fort McClellan, Alabama, where they used Bacillus globegi. I was involved because I was on site and there when it happened. And then we know that's been done again out in the Southwest. And then we've actually had a confirmation it's been done up in the Northeast. So we see Project Shad. Our own team came up to Project Shad. We had a big outbreak here in the Midwest with salmonella, and they were claiming it was coming from a subway. Well, there was no food that would carry salmonella, and the Army experts that are involved in all this said, well, Project Shad is still going on. We're doing it to our own guys here in Illinois. Isn't that nice?
And then they use it to pass a takeover of small farms and ranches. Unbelievable. That was powerful info. So some of your intel is that was a Project Shad op?
Well, yeah, that's what I heard directly from too many people that were directly on the inside.
Oh.
I mean, it made sense because there's no way for this stuff to show up otherwise.
You're incredible, Dr. Rokke. All your connections are just unbelievable.
I wish they weren't.
No, I mean, you're the Dr. DU. You've trained most of law enforcement in this country. Let's talk to George in Mississippi. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex. I was a Bradley gunner in Operation Iraqi Freedom.
So that was 7 years ago.
Right, 2003.
And what happened to you?
Well, I just want to take another aspect of this. We had a briefing right before, all right? We had a lieutenant get all the Bradley gunners and the tank crews, and gave us a briefing on depleted uranium. Because, we were just loaded down with it. This is before the invasion. He told us that you get more radiation from a microwave oven than from this stuff, and that it was totally safe. I'm dead serious. I'll never forget that.
Beyond comprehension.
But I'm just telling you what we were told.
No, I know. Listen. During Operation Iraqi Freedom, I had calls, and even one guy I've known for years, and I was told, you are a stinking liar. There's no radiation. It's no problem. And I have all the Army's own reports, just because the military told them the same thing. And so they don't want to believe me. But when they die, they'll believe. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Well, this was our NBC expert. He was a lieutenant. NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical. And, it's straight from the so-called expert telling us this.
Okay, well, this is the head of the DU program, and I may have to hold you both over. We got other guests, but this is so important. Dr. Rokke, you wrote the book on it.
Well, the training, first off, this young gentleman who was on a Bradley fighting vehicle was required to have 40 hours of depleted uranium training. When I wrote the training, I coordinated everything with the infantry school at Fort Benning, Georgia. In fact, we were down there and we wrote the red team manual on the use of uranium munitions in the Bradley fighting vehicle with 25 millimeter. Nobody's supposed to sit on top of the ammo inside the Bradley. You're supposed to have 40 hours of training. There's handling requirements, medical requirements, PPE requirements. Then the other thing, too, and this comes on down to the same thing, and this idiot, I'd love to have his name because I'm an retired Army officer, and I'll just call the Chemical Corps commander up right away and say, hey, this is what your guys are teaching. First off, a microwave oven is non-ionizing radiation. It's an RF wave, microwave. And DU is ionizing radiation, which is alpha, beta, gamma, and X-ray. Totally different things. So when this guy tells you that they're comparable, he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. And that just indicates a total deliberate failure and deliberate lies.
Well, look, Dr. Rokke, I've confirmed in 7 years ago, they told them all to tell them this, and most of these guys just believed it.
They do because they want to. They don't want to believe that all these guys would lie to them, send them to their death, and give them no equipment that operates and put them into areas where they shouldn't be. I didn't want to believe it either, for over 30 years while I was in the military, and until I was faced to do it when I became, their number one guy and had to figure out what was happening. It scared me. It scared me totally, and then it was reality. A reality check, as you mentioned.
And reality's still there. Even if you deny it or don't know reality, folks, it's still right there. You know, somebody can be hopped up on PCP and jump off a 50-story building because they think they're a bird, but they're not a bird. And you know, all this talk